Sometimes D&D players can be stupid and dumb and make dumb decisions, actually very often, but sometimes they can actually be clever.
It really doesn't happen that much, but this is a story of when it did, on today's episode of Tales from the Tabletop.
So did you want to preface this story with something?
Yes, I do not fully remember the story.
But you're going to tell it anyway.
I'm going off of my best memory, but I'm pretty sure I am missing some events.
All right.
This was quite a number of years ago, but it was a few years into our longest running D&D campaign. But at the beginning of the story, the party is looking for an artifact.
As we always are.
Yes, classic D&D trope, looking for an artifact. I can't remember what the artifact was, and it's not that important to the story. But the party needs it if they want to stop a big bad. Now, they learn that this artifact they're looking for is in a city called Cortho. Now, when they arrive to Cortho, they're surprised to find that the town is not in particularly nice shape. It's a relatively slummy area. But it's connected to a rather large palace, a large castle, as well as connected to a gigantic metal wall that surrounds a large area directly next to the city. This area is called the Land of Free Risk because every year there is a ceremony held where people volunteer themselves to go into the Land of Free Risk, which is populated by many nefarious and deadly creatures, monsters. So these volunteers go into it and try to make it out on the other side alive. Any people who survive are gifted an audience with the queen of the city, who lives in the palace up on the hill.
Who also is in possession of the artifact that we want.
Exactly.
Pretty badass setup, gotta say.
Thank you. So the party decides to do a little bit of investigation beforehand into kind of what the scenario of this city is. And they come to learn that anyone who succeeds, who makes it to the other side, is never seen again. And eventually they come to learn that the queen, Queen Elizabeth Felker, is actually a vampire. So these winners, she's taking them and feeding on them.
Sucking them dry.
Yeah. They actually also learn that she's connected to a previous villain, Leon Felder, who was a vampire from a previous game. We actually have a story on that one as well. But she's connected to him, that's why she's a vampire. So they know if they win this, if they are able to make it through the deadly Land of Free Risk, they'll be granted an audience with the queen, but only to be fed on. So the stakes are upped a little bit. The stakes are nowhere to be found, which is not a good thing whenever you're fighting a vampire. As the ceremony is set to begin, they crowd around the entrance to the Land of Free Risk, a large, massive metal gate. And while there, they encounter an NPC, Aldrin, another character who is looking for this artifact for more nefarious purposes. He's a bit of a antagonist at this point in the story. So they don't want to let him get his hands on it either.
He's a fallen monk who used to be a good guy. And also one of our favorite NPCs.
Yeah, but he's currently corrupted by Vecna, actually. Eventually, the gates are opened, and the party, as long as with a large group of people, a big group of hopefuls, are let into the Land of Free Risk. The gates slowly closing behind them, giving them an opportunity to leave if they wanted to, but that's not on the table for the group.
Well, I remember the first encounter that we had, being a freaking adult green dragon.
Yeah.
The last encounter my character Matthias had with the dragon, didn't go so well.
At this point in the campaign, an adult green dragon is too powerful for the party to fight on their own.
So I remember us being very scared, fighting it briefly for 1 or 2 rounds, and then deciding to run away while the dragon killed other volunteers.
Yep.
So at that point, a lot of the volunteers, the herd, had been...
a lot of them had been killed.
A lot of them had been thinned out.
Didn't know what they were getting into.
But yeah, I do remember a kind of chase scene with the dragon where we're...
Yeah. I believe you guys encountered a few more monsters in that area, felling some of them. Eventually, the party and Aldrin were able to make it to the other side of the land of free risk, getting to the gates on the far, far side. Long story short, you guys were teleported into the Queen's palace, and you sat at her dining table, knowing that you might be dinner for the night.
Mm-hmm.
As you guys kind of sat on the chairs, the Queen came in, started talking to you. Actually, I think she learned, you guys, as we were discussing, she learned that you had known Leon Felder. And Leon was a lover of hers. So she definitely wasn't happy that you had killed him. It's at this point, whenever metal shackles attach themselves around your arms from the arms of the chairs.
I remember that, because I remember that's when you ended the session on a cliffhanger.
Exactly. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
What were you thinking at that point?
I was scared and already thinking of plans for the next session.
That's why we have a planning chat
Yeah.
in the Discord, huh?
How did we get out of those?
You don't remember?
No.
Well, at the start of the next session, Edward Mann has the ability to teleport.
Right. Uh-huh.
Basically, it's like a Misty step. So he teleported out of his shackles nearby and was able to hit the button to release the rest of the party.
Right. Okay.
Now, the artifact that you guys were looking for, I believe, was mounted on the wall behind the dinner table. So you could see it. It's right there. So a fight ensues. Not with the Queen. She actually runs away. With the Queen's guard, who are very heavily fortified and actually a much deadlier threat than I think you guys had anticipated. But eventually, Edward Mann is able to get the artifact. He's able to retrieve it. At which point you guys start realizing this fight is not looking like a good thing and it's probably time to make your escape now that you have the artifact. There's no reason to stay. But Aldrin wants the artifact as well. And he's still there. So what happens is you guys begin to flee, but Edward Mann is backed into a corner. So he jumps out a window. Now, keep in mind, palace is pretty high up. I mean, like, this is like death if you fall from it type height. Now, Aldrin is a fallen monk. In D&D, that means he basically takes very little fall damage. So naturally, he leaps out the window after Edward. Now the two of them are falling together as Aldrin's catching up to him, his arms reaching for the artifact that is in Mann's grip. Remember, Mann has a teleport ability.
But he doesn't use Misty Step, he uses Dimension Door.
Oh, does he use Dimension Door?
Yeah.
Okay, so he teleports back into the building. Aldrin doesn't have that type of magic, so he just falls straight down the tower. And he doesn't take a lot of damage because he's a monk, but he's still, like, now he's freaking far away from the party. How the frick is he getting back?
I can imagine, like, his face when he saw Edward teleport.
And there was a lot of discussion about his reaction.
Oh, yeah?
So at that point, the party is able to start making their way up the palace.
And we're looking to escape.
You're looking
Pretty
pretty
quickly. And we're getting attacked by guards. I actually remember my character Matthias gets down to 1 hit point.
Eventually, you're able to get to the roof of the palace, where you're able to call in your airship.
Oh yeah, baby.
And you guys are able to escape on airship,
Yeah.
flying off into the distance, artifact in hand.
I will also mention a little bit of an extension to this.
Okay.
The party had a bit of a vendetta against Elizabeth Felker after this. I don't know if you remember this, but we actually planned an assassination mission just as a side quest to kill
This must have been a
Elizabeth.
little bit later, but I do remember it.
Just because we decided we wanted to kill her. So basically we teleport back in with a teleport spell, and we go on a stealth mission to assassinate her.
You know what I think actually happens is Justin goes by himself.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what it is.
And he starts talking to the queen instead of assassinating her.
Yeah, we're like, oh my god!
At this point, I start a timer.
Uh-huh.
I start a timer going to see how long this is going to take. It ends up being about a 30-minute like role-play sequence between him and the queen, a very intense sequence with a lot of he's slowly kind of pulling information out of her about not only the artifact but also about her vampirism, and Leon almost goading her, and eventually the scene ends as the queen prepares to bite his neck, which would kill him or turn him into a vampire or something. At that point, I stopped the timer. 30 minutes. Put 30 minutes on a timer, start it. Starts counting down.
And you're like, all right, you guys have 30 minutes to now rescue Justin. And we have to teleport into the castle and then go save him.
Yeah, you guys have to go on a stealth sequence to get through.
Yeah, and the stealth sequence, spoiler alert, it ends well. We end up rescuing Justin, but it was an epic moment.
It came down to like within a minute that he would have been.
And we kill the queen, and then all the guards are running after us. We have to try to escape. We get back to the teleport circle. It takes Edward Man a few minutes to actually activate the teleport, so we're holding off guards, waiting for the teleport. It's an epic moment, and then eventually we teleport away.
So I guess that's the tale of how you escaped her castle twice. Cool story.
It is a cool story.
Very epic moments.
Yeah.
A lot of clever player ideas.
Yeah, I remember we had a separate chat with you not in it of just us planning for scenarios.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the time it didn't work out, but sometimes it did.
Mm.
Like this story. I told you we would get to a time whenever we ended up not splitting the party and working as a team.
I guess. Well, you did technically split the party.
Okay, well, yeah.
But it didn't.
That was a good idea, but Justin decided to go AWOL.
Yeah. He went AWOL and decided to have a conversation instead of an assassination attempt. Thank you for watching today's episode of Tales from the Tabletop. If you want to see more like it, go ahead and subscribe and watch some other videos like it.